Hey everyone, I've got a quick update for you before we dive into today's episode. My course, The Waves of Focus, all about finding and guiding flow with wandering minds, ADHD, and beyond, will be open for enrollment from April 24th through May 2nd. The program, the course, the community helps you guide your wandering mind into this powerful asset. As they say, all who wander are not lost. We'll dive deep into trust and visit-based approaches rather than the force-based methods that many of us wind up using when we don't feel like we can get ourselves to the places we want to go. When we can engage in that self-trusted, confident way, we start creating rhythms that work with our natural tendencies instead of working against them. If you enjoy this podcast, I think you'll love the more immersive experience of the course. Head on over to wavesoffocus.com to learn more. All right, on with the episode. Maybe if I trick myself, maybe if I reward myself, maybe if I use that app that gives me points, sparkles, and a lot of fanfare, I'll get my chores done. Welcome to the Rhythms of Focus podcast for wandering minds who are tired of feeling that they have to force themselves to make things happen. Maybe know that when things line up well, that tendency to wander actually becomes a powerful wave of focus. I'm Dr. Kourosh Dini, fellow wandering mind. It wasn't that long ago that I struggled to make things happen, whether it was to remember when to pay a bill, do things over time, or look at a list without feeling repulsed. Fast forward through years of study and practice, I can now not only deal with the world, I can be creative, playful, and engage in the ways that make sense to me. I can be a doctor, musician, father, still play games in the evenings. I've created this podcast to share these ideas so you can do the same, hopefully with a lot less of the troubles I needed to go through to get here. Whether you have ADHD, deal with anxiety, or just suffer from a powerfully creative spirit, I invite you to join me in this weekly podcast to start finding your own way to a calmer, more intuitive space. Please note, I'm not functioning as your doctor, psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, therapist, or otherwise. This is here for education, if not entertainment, and I do hope you enjoy it. The idea of dopamine dependence, or maybe dopamine starvation, is often a suspect in the world of ADHD and wandering minds. If I only had more dopamine, I'd get things done. The phrase is supported by this idea of an interest-based nervous system, this idea that has somehow been interpreted to mean that we can only do the things that we have some a priori interest in, effectively arguing for a lack of free will. And so some of us look for ways that we can, quote, game ourselves. Maybe we consider ways to set up a point system for which chores are worth something. Maybe we turn our to-do list into a set of quests with levels, loot, and the like. Or how about, how fast can I clear this inbox? Reminding me of trying to get a kid to tie their shoes in the morning by asking them to race out the door. Maybe we even use a chemical like coffee after the work report is done, quite literally trying to get a flush of dopamine after doing something that we'd otherwise avoid. Look, if any of these work for you, great, wonderful. But I believe that more often than not, it'll work once or a few times, and then some part of us starts to say no. Why? Because we've been dishonest with ourselves. Any system of work worth its salt requires honesty with ourselves. Part of the problem is in how we interpret the word game itself. We look at video games, for instance, as this poster child of dopamine dependence. Things flash and make noises on a screen, beaming photons into our eyes, jiggling air molecules at our eardrums, sending signals into some secret layers in our brain. A mesolimbic pathway of the ventral tegmental area, the nucleus accumbens working its way into the dorsal striatum. Whatever the terminology. The more seemingly scientific, the more it becomes a metaphor for whatever lies beyond our control. We may as well imagine some evil villain with a smirk in a lab suit standing in our brains laughing as they pull the levers for the things that make us do wrong. Gaming, in this context, is a word that seems to be interpreted as maybe I can trick that guy into pulling the levers at the times that I want by attaching something that already makes the dopamine flow with the thing that doesn't. But gaming, video games, is very much not about this process at all. Things that go blip and bloop do not excite us. Or maybe they do briefly, but then that fades off easily. Its novelty spent. What excites us is a flow of moving from one challenge to the next. At first we see something that somehow fits some window of not too difficult, not too boring, maybe even completable. We nudge forward, stomping on that one bad guy, and then we see some next window of challenge, maybe bringing some of what we've just accomplished with us. One at a time, and then blending into each other like picture frames across old-school film. We get into it, stomping, swinging, dashing, grooving, ready to take on more. What began as a trickle became a river. Whatever it is, we're enjoying the thing for the thing itself. We haven't skirted meaning. We haven't cheated ourselves. Beyond games, we can do this with any type of play or work, enjoyed or not. The path in is through the frustration, the tension, the emotion that already exists, not by avoiding it. If we can pause with that sensation, not force ourselves through or hide from it, we can then ask, what is boring, frustrating, irritating about this? And then simplify, or maybe shrink things down or slow down. Try to render some of that tension into ease, gently as we do. And then with doing so, we then start finding the real levers that can adjust the challenge within ourselves, tuning into where we are. We can adjust those levers for ourselves. Once we learn how to titrate a challenge for ourselves, dopamine's an afterthought. The word itself, experience distant as it always has been. Sometimes we can even transform an experience from frustrating to enjoyed, even bridging the, why can't I just start because I know I'll be okay once I'm there. We bridge that into beginning with an honoring of the emotions that make up who we are now, rather than treating ourselves as if we don't know better. Have you ever run into someone after decades of not seeing them, but then recognize them instantly? And you start talking, and then you notice, my goodness, how much they've changed. How did I recognize them? Some central something echoed throughout the years into that moment and connected, resonating with who we are and who they are. The things we create seem to follow a similar path. The following piece is called Aging. It's one of the oldest pieces that I'd written, maybe somewhere in my early teens, this little phrase. And as the piece has shifted and changed and aged over the years, it's found new structure. I enjoy changing things around. In fact, when I no longer make those changes, I lose interest in the piece and it passes on. But somehow this one stuck around, still changing, but still holding its core character. Aging's written in C minor, one of my favorite keys, the earliest one that I really tried to develop my abilities of composition and improvisation with. In any case, I hope you enjoy it. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, kindly subscribe, rate, review with whatever app you're using. If you're on the Apples, press the Apple buttons. If you're on the Spotifys, press the spots. If you're on the YouTubes, press those things, whatever the things. And if you're feeling especially generous, consider leaving a review. Maybe mention your favorite piano piece or just say hi. Your support helps more wandering minds find this podcast.